Walgreens has settled a prescription kickback investigation. It will now pay the federal government and two whistleblowers a total of almost $8 million. The investigation found some workers ignored the fine print on $25 gift card promotions for prescription transfers. The gift cards weren't supposed to apply to people on Medicaid, Medicare, and the military's TRICARE program, but were often given anyway. The Justice Department said that violates federal law. According to a new study, a blood test may be able to detect depression in teens. Parents who aren't sure if their child is experiencing normal moodiness or a more serious form of depression could get answers through a simple prick to the finger. Earlier, I sat down with Chief Medical Correspondent Dr. Sanjay Gupta and asked him how it works.
It's this idea that, are there certain markers for depression in the blood? So you draw blood, you test the blood, and you're specifically trying to answer two questions. One is, does the person in fact have depression? And two is, if they have sort of early onset depression, can we predict that they may go on to develop what's known as a major depressive disorder? It's the holy grail, really, because there is no blood test. Everyone would love that, to be able to predict and diagnose more conclusively. And it's very early stuff. I mean, what they did was they stressed animals for a couple of weeks, then drew blood from them and created a profile. Well, this is what depressed blood may look like, and tried to find some of those same markers in, at this point, young people, teenagers for the most part. It seems to have some correlation, but again, this is early stuff.
It's important though, because it is so hard to identify depression, for sure.
No question about it, and identifying it still is mainly a clinical. It's a clinical diagnosis, meaning someone, a psychiatrist may interview you, may ask a bunch of questions, ask about your mood, your habits, and then come to this conclusion. Everyone's been saying, look, can we objectify this in some way, a brain scan, a blood test? So that's why people are focusing on things like this.
So what's next? Where do we go from here?
One of the exciting areas, I think, and I'm fascinated by this, is this idea that you could somehow find a depression center in the brain, a place where depression lives. And there's this doctor, Dr. Helen Mayberg, who started her work in Toronto and is now at Emory, who believes she's discovered that area. It's called Area 25. And she literally, in these patients, Randy, who had no options, medications had not worked, electroconvulsive therapy had maybe stopped working, and she decided just to stimulate that part of the brain and got some pretty astonishing results. I'm going to just show you really quickly. I mean, this is essentially what it looks like. This is a battery pack for a deep brain stimulator. It would sit underneath someone's collarbone, underneath the skin, and then this here is actually, in fact, what goes into the brain.
So she's putting that into patients.
She's with the help of a neurosurgeon. She's putting these into the brains, and you can see there's several different electrodes on here. She would stimulate different amounts of electricity at different electrodes and try and get some benefit in the patients, and she saw that several times. It was pretty remarkable.
So there's a real difference once you put that in. I mean, she can say it has been successful.
She can, and I saw some of this myself, and it was pretty profound. There's one woman who you get to see more this weekend, but she really had been in a profound state of depression for a long time, had no connection with family, people around her, and even in the operating room, while this stimulator was being turned on, she suddenly started to smile, and people said, well, what are you smiling at? And they were rating all these things, and she said, I suddenly have a great affection from this grand niece of mine. I want to see her, I want to hold her. She hadn't felt that way since this child was born. So it was very quick, and it was very profound.
Wow, that is fascinating.
Yeah.
Area 25.
Area 25,
I'm going to keep an eye on that one.
There you go.
All right, Sanjay, thanks.
Thank you.
And for more of the week's most important medical stories, you can catch